Episode 81. No underwear to sleep. Jade had never thought that she would be so sensitive to a man's voice. Dario was a devil. "Quickly tell me, Mrs. Foster." Dario's cold and gentle eyes stared intently at her brows, as if he didn't want to be separated from her for even a moment. Jade's body couldn't help but tremble. When he called her Mrs. Foster, it was simply too lethal. She couldn't hold back at all. Before Jade could reply, Dario bit her lips again and even sucked her tongue. Seeing that she wasn't willing to answer for a long time because he actually punished her by biting hard onto her. "Are you still not going to tell me?" Dario's eyes showed a trace of danger, as if he wouldn't stop until he heard the answer. "I don't want to say it," Jade replied angrily. She stared at him with a fierce look in her eyes. "Oh, is that so?" Dario narrowed his eyes and hugged her even harder. As he was about to kiss her again, Jade pushed his body away in a panic. She seemed to admit defeat. "Mr. Foster, I'm afraid of you. I want it. Is that enough?" Jade was about to cry from his kisses. She would never come to look for him again. Who cares how late he stays up? She had come to call him to bed out of kindness, but then all this happened. But Dario didn't let her go when he heard her answer. He hugged her even harder and whispered into her ear, "Since you want it so much, let's do it again." Jade rolled her eyes at him and couldn't help but curse. "What the heck do you want? I'm ignoring you and going back to sleep." "Come on, Mrs. Foster." Dario coaxed her as if he were coaxing a child. He even moved his lips closer to hers. Jade reached out her hand and moved his face away. She would never answer any of his questions again. No matter how she answered, she was always the one to suffer. "No, I have to get up at 7 in the morning tomorrow. I have to reach Milliken at 8 o'clock. After saying that, she rushed down from his body. But just as she was about to leave, Dario took the opportunity to pick her up from behind. She was surprised, but then Dario lowered his head and said gently to her, "Your foot is injured. I'll carry you over." "No need. My injury isn't very serious." Jade was a little embarrassed, but her hands involuntarily wrapped around his neck. Dario carried her back and didn't plan to let go. When she laid down, Jade wanted to go straight to sleep, but she found that Dario was staring at her. She felt weird with him staring at her, so she asked him directly, "Mr. Foster, what do you want? Do you want to sleep like this?" Jade realized that she hadn't taken off her coat. Then it occurred to her that Dario had ill intentions. She quickly covered her body with the coat and said cautiously, "I like to sleep in my coat. Why shouldn't I?" "Take off your coat and don't sleep in it. You won't be able to sleep well." Dario looked at her as he spoke. "I won't." Jade looked at him and dared not to take it off until Dario stared at her and said to her, "Then can I help you? I'll be happy to help you." It seemed like he really intended to help. But Jade was so scared that she quickly shrank back. Knowing that he never lied, she obediently took off her coat under Dario's scorching gaze. She was wearing pink inners that day. Although the lower part was revealing and only covered her butt, it was fortunate that she was already in the bed and covered by the blanket. The top was a deep V-neck design which made her pretty figure stand out, but compared to the exposed parts, it was much better. She tried her best to turn her body sideways and to quickly crawl beneath the blanket, but Dario still saw her. His eyes narrowed, and he felt a surge of heat in his lower abdomen. He forcefully suppressed the urge in his heart and took off his clothes to lie down beside her. "Ah, Mr. Foster, what are you doing?" Jade was surprised and looked at him in disbelief. He was actually putting his hand into her pajamas and taking off her underwear. Dario, who had been discovered, felt neither ashamed nor blushed. He calmly said to her, "You shouldn't wear underwear when you go to sleep. It's not good for your chest, understand?" "I know. Let go of me. I'll do it myself." Jade blushed and hid under the covers. She quickly took off her underwear and placed them on the bedside table. "Remember to take them off next time before you get into the bed. It would be best if you slept like me," Dario said as he rubbed his naked body against hers. It made her feel awkward. Jade felt that marrying him had been a mistake. This man, who looked like he was a gentleman, was actually a big pervert. But he was also a super cynical and scheming person. He was too much of it all. As long as she was with him, she would be at a disadvantage. Dario, I hate you. Jade felt something hot pressing against her thigh and immediately shrank to the side. She didn't dare to sleep facing him. You obviously like it very much. Come here. In the darkness, Dario curled the corner of his lips and pulled her into his arms. He kissed her forehead and said gently, "Go to sleep." Mr. Foster, can you let go of me? I don't feel comfortable sleeping like this. After a while, Jade tried to leave his arms, but he only held her more tightly. She didn't know whether he was asleep or not, since he didn't say anything. His breathing was regular, and his eyes were tightly shut. She shook him a few times and found that he really seemed to be asleep. She couldn't help but mutter, "You're still hugging me so tightly, even though you're asleep." Just as she finished speaking, she heard a low voice beside her ear. "Don't move. Be obedient." Mr. Foster, you're not sleeping." Jade was shocked. Then she felt his arms tighten a little, making it harder for her to escape. "If you move again, I will not be polite to you," Dario said in a very calm tone as he closed his eyes. Jade helplessly sighed. It seemed that she couldn't break free. All she could do was lie on his hot chest and sleep. She actually didn't feel that uncomfortable. It was just that she didn't really like the situation. He was not wearing anything, and she was only wearing a thin nightgown. She was really afraid that something would happen. She was also afraid that she would get used to his warm embrace and would no longer be able to leave him. The next day, Caroline's phone call woke Jade up. "Jade, what did I tell you yesterday? You were supposed to be here at 8 o'clock. Look at what time it is now." Jade, who was still sleeping, had a depressed look on her face. She looked at the time. It was already 8 o'clock. God, she was late. Jade was about to cry. "I'm sorry, Caroline. I clearly set the alarm at 7 yesterday. I don't know why, but it didn't ring. I'll be there right away." 10 minutes. Don't bother coming if you can't be here in 10 minutes. Caroline hung up the phone when she finished speaking. Jade suddenly felt that her entire life had turned dark.